Hi, good evening, sports fans. It's Monday evening, middle of the coronavirus here in North Texas. Shout out to all my brothers last night from Mid-Tex Umpires. The online meeting we had was a breath of fresh air. It was good to see a lot of the guys' faces. We haven't seen each other in some of us for almost a month now. So thank you to all the state regional directors around last night giving us an update on where we stand in North Texas as far as baseball and softball. Fortunately, the news is not good. Looks like most of our rec leagues are probably canned for the spring. Hopefully, some of our Super NIT events will still make a lot of great questions and answers. Guys were kicking the ball around. It was good to see everybody. It was a breath of fresh air. Kind of picked me up for the weekend. I know from what everyone was sharing with us last night, we're all suffering. The game we love has been put on hold, and it's really getting at some of us umpires and officials. Thank you for all the positive feedback from the two YouTube episodes. Big thank you. Great feedback. I do see by the analytics report I got this morning, the 30-minute podcast is probably a little too long for most people. So going to maybe tail that back, cut it in half or less. I was reminded last night from one of my fellow brothers in blue that we talked on the first or second podcast about obstruction and interference, and it slipped my mind, but it was something that needs to be spoken about. The obstruction rule. There are two types of obstruction: Type 1 and Type 2. Unless you're in high school ball only has basically just straight obstruction. You're going to treat it as a Type 2. It's going to be immediate dead ball and award the bases if necessary. Type 1 interference was kind of the scenario I talked about where balls hit the outfield and the runner is rounding first base and he is bumped or brushes or interfered somehow. The fielder interfered with his running path. The umpire would point and yell obstruction, and that play is not a dead ball, immediate dead ball. It's a delayed dead ball. You watch to see if that runner makes it safely into second. If he does, you put that obstruction in your pocket. That call is null and void at that point. If it would turn into a Type 2 obstruction where there's a play being made on the runner, say he was thrown out, you'd call time, point at the first baseman, say that was obstruction, time, and you award that runner second base. So thank you for pointing that out, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you for all your good feedback. Don't forget to, many of you liked the channel, go ahead and hit the bell. Subscribe. That'll let YouTube know that we got something going good here, and it'll help us progress where we want to go. Hopefully, if I can figure out with the limited resources, and I really don't want to put a lot of finances into this operation, getting the microphone, split screen type stuff where I could have guests. We can figure out how to do it on with the trusty iPhone 7. I'm going to do that. I'd love to have some really important people from the North Texas area concerning baseball and softball. Get some tournament directors in here. A couple UICs, which are umpire in charges, that oversee umpire groups. Like to get some assigners in here to discuss baseball and softball and answer questions for everybody. So keep the questions coming in. They're great. Some of them could be a complete episode. So stay tuned. Tonight I always want to touch base on youth softball here in North Texas. I looked at some statistics over the weekend, and it's unfortunately it's kind of sad. Girls softball is slowly declining. Not it's at a pace that it's outpacing baseball. Fortunately, nowadays kids have so many more things to do. Unfortunately, most of them are not healthy. Sitting around playing Xbox is definitely not good for a child's health and development. So just want to encourage any parents or grandparents out there that got little ones that are thinking about going into softball. Just wanted to kind of give you some quick points on stuff that's happening here. And this is not only just in North Texas. This is all over the country. Many great rec leagues are starting up, and I know it's going to be kind of a tough time this time of year because of the coronavirus stuff. But most like here in Texas, I can only speak really on Texas. I've been down there so long, I've kind of lost contact with a lot of baseball folks up north in Iowa and Illinois. But down here in Texas, most spring softball is usually between March and June. Usually their deadlines are sometime late January to get your sign-ups in. They'll have a draft if it's a new player coming in. Coaches will get their equipment, start having practices. Usually for our season at Hearst, it would have been Monday would have been our first regular season game. And unfortunately, last week I was just notified that my 2 games for tomorrow night were canceled last week, so I'm extra bummed about that. And then we have a fall ball season, usually runs from September to November. And then during the summer, you'll have your prime leagues, your select tournaments, and then your traveling teams will come through the area, and they'll have a lot of tournaments throughout the summer months. And here in Texas, we mostly have USSSA, is a big sanctioning body. Of course, now ASA is gone, so now it's going to be USA Softball. NSA, National Sports Alliance, they do some tournaments and some prime leagues around here. You have Pony League, Little League, and then, of course, you'll have high school rule-based tournaments where it's for a little bit for the older girls that are probably going to be transitioning into high school ball. Relatively inexpensive to get a player into softball. I was just looking online last night, and you can get bats from $29.99 for the hot pink Easton Sapphires, which a lot of the girls play with. It's a very good bat and very, very cheap for aluminum bat. All the way up to, you can get into the Ghost series of Easton. They're carrying Marusi's, DeMarinis. Those bats are over $600, up to $600. So I mentioned this before. $400 bat doesn't help a $3 swing. So don't think you have to go out there and buy the. Try to keep up with the Joneses when it comes to your equipment. You don't need to. I was looking at gloves. Gloves are between $24 and $50 for a very good quality girls fast pitch glove, and they're rugged and multiple seasons out of them, basically until your child outgrows them. Cleats. I was really surprised how cheap rubber cleats are, from $15 up to $40. So it's really economical to play. Your fees to play in most rec leagues here in Fort Worth are somewhere between $30 and $50. Maybe a little bit more for some of the bigger cities, but and just in this area, I'll just mention a few of the leagues that are around here, and don't have any favorites because I've umpired for 90% of them, and they're all top-notch softball leagues. They keep the kids extremely safe. Quality select tournaments they hold. Great concession stands, really family friendly. we have PS or PYBSA over here in Saginaw that my grandson played in for a couple seasons before he moved on to a select team in the Saginaw area, and that's all Pony League. They have some really good softball over there as well as baseball. Just north of us, where I'm at in Fort Worth, North Richland Hills, um, high girls softball is up there. Great fields, a lot of teams. They mix it up there. They get into some of the interlock league play with some of the other surrounding towns. So, if you're in that area, you're not going to be traveling 30, 40 miles every week, on weeknights to get to some of these games. So they're interlocked with Fort Worth, Hearst, in that area, up north, up into Capel and Colleyville. Chris Costa over at KYA, Keller Youth, big time powerhouse up there, and girls softball. Them and up, you get up into the Colony, over to Trophy Club, big powerhouse, long heralded softball leagues up in there. They build them all the way to go through high school. My home league over Tri-Cities baseball. Josh Stone is the president over there, and you got. If I'm wrong with some of these names, it's just because they could have had elections over the winter. But I know Derek De La Rosa was over the rec up there, and then Becky Smith, which is she's a fellow umpire. She's over the select girls teams up there, and Becky does a really good job. And so does Eric. They're fielding some really strong rec teams. They're having a lot of fun. They're developing these players. And that's the beauty of like Tri-Cities. They have a feeder system into their select softball, and as well as their baseball. They have the Bandits is their select team that they can choose from the rec players. And they play in all the tournaments here. See them at the World Series. A great bunch of coaches and kids on those teams. My home away from home, Flower Mound. Flower Mound Youth Sports. Those guys up there, that whole city has just involved themselves to the deepest level in their kids' sports up there. I don't care if it's softball, baseball, soccer. Jeff Nelson's the president up there. And if you see these kids that volunteered to come up and tend the fields during regular rec season and their tournaments, very seldom do you see a field tended to after every game. They're out there grooming the field. They're watering down the mounds. And these kids, they do it out of the goodness of their heart and their love for the game. Jeff's really got a great operation up there. And if I'm wrong, I apologize. Like I said before, I think Brian Jacobs is still doing the softball, and Jack Foltz is doing the select, was doing the select softball up there. But that whole Flower Mound Association is just like Tri-Cities and, some other ones around here I'll mention. These guys get it. It's completely about the kids. It's completely about the game. They make it fun for... for us umpires, they treat us really well. They take care of us. They meet all of our needs. So I can only imagine what that does for the fans. Mansfield, Rick Rosales down in Mansfield. I've done a couple of his tournaments a few years ago. Very impressed. Mansfield's always got great fields down there outside of Field of Dreams. They're just their city fields and local park fields. Very well kept. These guys run great tournaments, well run, usually never any problems. And then we're going to drop a little south. We're going to now talk about Marco Lopez down in Crowley. I think Marco's still running that down there, and another top-notch softball guy. Just gets it. It's about the kids. He just spends endless hours. Um, his commitment level is just right up there. I can think of the Justin area with Misty Seeley. I called one of her tournaments early this year when it was cold and damp out in the Granbury area. Um, she's running the Justin program, and she was doing the NCS tournament out there. Teams from all over, and that early in the year, it's rare to see softball being played that early in the, and I want to say maybe that was the end of January. First week in February. It was still pretty cold and rainy down here. She pulled it off. Creme de la creme when it comes to tournament director. She sees the whole tournament front to back. She doesn't get flustered or nothing. She works through the problems, gets everyone's involvement. Anytime Misty calls, I'll come out and do a tournament for her. No questions asked. Down in Burleson, Julie Cotton game, I think, still down there. Once I get, like I say, I can't say enough about these directors and these people that are putting these tournaments on. They just nail it. I mean, they're great tournaments. They're fair tournaments. There's no really big blowouts. Time limits are, very convenient for the teams. We're not bringing in teams from way out west, anywhere out of the area, sticking them in an 8 o'clock game. They just won't do that. They'll work with these guys. And I forgot, Misty also does the Justin Prime softball. So, and you got up north, up by the lake, Grapevine. I haven't done Grapevine in quite a few years. Couple other associations I worked for in the last, over the years. We did a lot of up in Grapevine, but just haven't. But I'm sure it's like anything else. Grapevine does with their sports top notch. I mean, you're not going to get any better in the area. Then you got Mike Nelson down in Benbrook. He runs a great show down there, great tournaments down there. So just really wanted to touch base about that, give some people encouragement about if you're thinking about having putting a kid on the field playing softball. It's a great sport, and they start as young as age 4, playing. And boys, it's blaster ball. I'm sure they got a cute name for the little girls out there playing too. Basically T-ball all the way up to take you right up through high school. So, all right, that's about 18 minutes. I'm going to shut this thing down here, and thank you for all the support and the kind words. Don't forget to ring the bell and subscribe, and hopefully as I keep talking to these people and trying to figure out the technical side of this stuff, hopefully get some split cameras in here and get some guests on here. I'd really like to have those people come in here and share their love of the sport and give us different things to think about. Stay safe out there, guys. Bye.